Recording.
So everyone. This week's Parsha, we have talked Anistaros Hashem Elokeinu, Nigros Lanu Avoneinu Ad Olam, ourselves is called Divrei Torah. So the question arises, what are the starot and what are the niglot? What does the Torah mean when it says, Ani starot b'Hashem Elokeinu? What is hidden, that's up to God. Niglot, what is revealed, Lanu L'Vanenu, to us and to our generations, that's what revealed to us. We're supposed to do the Torah. So apparently, we're not supposed to explore any more deeply in life, except he goes, we find by Chazal the phrase "Bahadi v'kav she'rachmono lomo." In matters that heaven has hidden, what's it your business? Why do you even inquire? You just have to do what you have to do. So, at first glance, we would say that this speaks out against any philosophic view of what happens in life. Whatever happens in life is always this sorrow, hidden from us. We don't know the reasons. And most of life does not really make logical sense. Certainly the events that occur. Can anybody make sense of what's going on now? Wherever you are. So we start out. So therefore we're left only with the niglot. Now that's one approach. But that approach is intellectually and emotionally not a satisfying one. Because it makes life too mysterious, too unpredictable. And human beings crave certainty. You want to know what's going on, cause and effect, why things happen. And therefore, there is a school of thought amongst the Meforshim that even though there are Storot Hashem Elokeinu, we have to attempt to understand to the best of our ability whatever we can understand. We should search for cause and effect. Especially true in our time, when such momentous events have occurred to the Jewish people over the past century. So one way of looking at it is to leave it a mystery. We don't know why. We don't know why the world was subjected do such horrible wars, why so many tens of millions of people were consumed, and why the Jewish people particularly have to undergo such a horrendous experience as all of it. So there are those that say, let's leave the subject alone. We're never going to figure it out. It's Bahadi Nikapshe Rahmullah. And it's what the Nabi said. God told us in advance, you'll never understand what's happening. My systems are not your systems. My logic is not your logic. So leave it alone. On the other hand, the Torah itself, in many instances, tells you the cause and effect. Both in Bukukosai and Utomo, where the Tochacha is stated and repeated, the Torah says there the cause. In this week's parsha, the Torah says, the nations of the world will wonder, why was Eretz Yisrael destroyed? Why are the Jewish people persecuted? Why all the tzores? The Omrim, and they'll be able to say, because I was wrong, because they forsook God. They went after all sorts of false ideals and ideas. So that's the natural result. So that's the cause. And Kofris from Melach, straight for Kolar Psoa, that's the effect. That's what happens. So the Torah itself indicates that to us. So therefore, that's why Noah before she finds it difficult to have a clear understanding of these psukim. Because on one hand, we must admit that the cause is oblivious to us, and on the other hand, sometimes the cause is apparent. This is especially true in discussing the matter of the Holocaust or the rise of the state of Israel. What was the cause for the rise? Why, after 1,700 years of Golas, all of a sudden, people started to come back and they're going to build a society and they're successful. And the irony is that many of them are not very Jewish. And look, it happened. The effect is here. We're living in the effect. So because of that, we have this confusion. And there are those that take a very hard line and say they know the cause. So there are many that say that the cause of the Holocaust was the secularization of the Jewish people. And therefore, it was bound to happen. And there are other reasons that are advanced. Does that really satisfy the issue? We have a basic issue that one of the great books of the Tanakh is devoted to, the book of Iyov, that there's a concept of Tzaddik v'Rama, Rosh Hashanah. And in this world, we don't see justice. We don't see things turn out correctly. The tzaddik suffers. And we just finished listening to a series of lectures about what happened to the Nazi party functionaries after the war. So 5% were tried and given prison sentences. This was in 1948 and 49. By 1951, 75% of them were out free already. By 1959, all were out free. The only one that wasn't was Rudolf Hess, who the Russians refused to allow him to be pulled. So that's Russia with Togo. They got away with it. And then you have a whole series of lawsuits to try and recover property that was stolen. And now you have the law from Poland. So the question of Eog is right front and center in our world. Tommy Garallo and the Jewish people are always wrong. It's always the fault of the Jews. And in the Jewish world, it's always the fault of the Rosh Hashanah. The evil people prosper. So there's over 40 chapters in the book of Eog. Probably not one of the more popular books of Chazal. It's written by Moshe Rabbeinu. And it really comes up with no answer, no solution. The Shalom just Kaviyachol tells Eog, listen, you weren't around when I created the world. You don't understand what I'm doing here. It's all beyond you. It's again, then leave it alone. So this is a question that remains until today. How do we define what are the Storos Lashem and what are the Negro Storos? And obviously the Storos we're supposed to leave alone, but we haven't been able to decide where the Storos begin or end. And that is a basic fault line that exists in the Jewish world. And the Mepharshim deal with it, but again, there is no unanimity of opinion. There are those that say it's obvious what happened. And there are those that say they have no idea why it happened. And they each follow their reasoning and logic very strongly. Maybe it's because it has to be that way in order for the Jewish life to continue. So we have to be able to somehow put some logic to it. One more point on the Storos and Niglos. There's something that's called Torah Sanista. We call that Kabbalah. It's a hidden parallel world which the Torah deals with. That there's always been a source of not friction, even discussion within the Jewish world as to how to deal with it. There are those who deal with it as reality, as the ultimate reality. And there are those, not many, but there are those, and they're usually not vocal about it, who deny the whole thing. And say it's not in the Torah, it's not in the Talmud, It's something that somehow was grafted onto us in the exile. So again, is that included in Anistoros Lashem Elokeinu? Obviously, there are other things in the universe besides us. Obviously, it's a bigger picture than the one that we see. But that's Anistoros Lashem Elokeinu. And we have to deal only with Niglos. We have to deal only with the reality that we can deal with. And that's Lassos is called the Reator Azos. So these are ideas that the Parsha raises, issues that are raised for us. And they're worthy of contemplation, even though we may not be capable of solution and of explanation. I don't know if I've faced some answers. Go Yadil, Rav Yadil.